Moving on now. For just about a decade now, Portland has been trying to reduce the number of people killed on its streets in car crashes. You've probably heard us talk about the Portland Bureau of Transportation's Vision Zero plan. The overall goal is to eliminate traffic deaths completely. That's the zero in the Vision Zero. So how's that working out after all these years? Well, not that well. That's according to a new audit by the city. Vision Zero was formally adopted by the Portland City Council back in 2016. This graph shows traffic deaths and serious injuries from 2012 to 2022. Do you see what's happening there? In general, over the last few years especially, traffic deaths and injuries are higher than ever. The deaths are there in the red. In the years before Vision Zero was implemented, traffic-related deaths hovered around 35 or so people a year. In 2021, 64 people died. In 2022, the last year on the graph, 63 people died. And the city says prelim data from 2023 shows that 69 people died. The same pattern for injuries. That's in the yellow. Before Vision Zero, around 200 or 250 were seriously hurt each year in crashes. It was 362 in 2021 and 427 in 2022. So why are the numbers going up instead of going down? The Portland Bureau of Transportation says it's a nationwide trend.
In the last 5 years, deaths and serious injuries have gone up on Portland streets, on Oregon roadways, on roadways across the United States, largely due to factors driven by the pandemic, the fentanyl crisis, the behavioral health crisis, the period when we had lockdowns and the streets were devoid of any vehicle traffic. All of a sudden you started seeing people racing on city streets and highways. It used to be seeing someone go 60 on a city street that has, I say, 20, 25 mile an hour speed limit would be unheard of. But periodically, we and city transportation officials all across the United States are seeing that kind of reckless behavior on our streets. And this is really new since the onset of the pandemic.
Perhaps, but the audit also found that PBOT has only partially completed the safety projects it had planned, and that it's not done a great job of evaluating the outcomes of those projects, which, you know, is pretty critical. But let's dive deeper into some of the components of the plan and what the auditors found out about each. Here's the list making the improvements to roads that have a lot of crashes. That's number one. Changing pedestrian signals to give people more time to cross the street. Number two. Adding lighting and changing street design, reducing speed limits, and adding more speed cameras throughout town. All right, let's see what the auditors found. They found that for components related to protecting pedestrians, PBOT still has some work to do. Signal timing at crosswalks actually has improved. Auditors say that's because the Bureau got extra money from TriMet, but many crosswalk improvements happened at intersections, and the auditor's office says PBOT needs to address the long stretches of road where there is no safe place to cross, where a quarter of the fatal crashes are happening. PBOT says they are working on a plan that would mandate the minimum distance between crosswalks. Reducing speed limits is going better for PBOT. The auditor's office says the speeds in most residential areas were reduced to 20 miles an hour, and speed limits were reduced on other high crash streets as well. But the audit says PBOT needs to do better at installing speed cameras, and PBOT says, yeah, they're trying.
We want to deploy as many as we can. Our vendor has been failing us, frankly. We are hopping mad. We have had meetings up the chain of command with Conduit, the name of our vendor, which has changed their name since then. We are talking to competing vendors to try to get additional cameras on our street as soon as possible because we know how effective they are.
The audit says PBOT has made some progress on changing up street design to make things safer. Things like adding physical barriers and more speed bumps, along with turning some lanes into parking or bike lanes. But they say some of the projects have been delayed, and the ones they did finish need to be evaluated more closely to see how well they're working. Overall, the auditors said that PBOT needs to do a better job of evaluating its projects after they're done. And they say there was a lot of confusion at PBOT over what a Vision Zero project is and what it isn't. For PBOT's part, they agree with the auditor's recommendations. They plan to better monitor their projects and install more speed cameras next year. But they say they're also going to be going to the legislature next year to ask for more money.